Okay, welcome everyone. We back at the gate one more time this month. I want to welcome everyone to the Menlo Park Fire Protection District Board of Directors meeting, May 20th, 2025, at beginning at 7:08. Can we get a roll call, Michelle?
Director Bernstein?
Present.
Director Bloom?
Here.
Director Crawley?
Present.
Director Solano?
Here.
Director Jones?
Here. Can we stand for the pledge of allegiance to the flag, wherever it is? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so, we, board, members of the board, we was at our meeting at a closed session meeting, and we have no reportable items from that session. And now, any public comments, Michelle? There's no public comments, then we'll move into a report from the chief.
Director, members of the board, and members of our audience, both here live and via Zoom. Happy to share with you the fire chief's report for May of 2025. Just to start off, as we always do, with a quick, very brief update on Fire Station 1. Not a lot has happened. The only changes in the report you have has changed the very last sentence related to the city of Menlo Park's planning process, and that once it goes, the plans have been revised to address the comments that were resubmitted last week. And the other change is we've moved up into the funding section, the anticipated budget savings transfer to CIP reserve of about 6.6 million. And right now, assuming that the project costs stay at $121 million, with everything that's presented there, we'd be short about 631,000. Likely anticipate cost probably go up. That's what we say right now. Recruitments and promotions, really none, just a retirement of the fire marshal. As we recognized them at our last meeting, and then they had a taco party behind the Yellow House on April 30th. I know a number of board members came and wished John. He is now happy in South Carolina. Good for him. Yeah. Other items, just to share with you briefly some of the activities our folks in public education and community engagement unit. One of the things that we've done over the last month, events, participated in the City of Menlo Park's Easter event with a CERT booth and also with the Firefighters Association activities. Had a CERT booth at the East Palo Alto Cinco de Mayo event. African Earth Day, we sponsored a CERT booth. School group wise, we presented to 75 students from Nausalita School, plus 15 adults, with a tour and presentation in Fire Station 4. Classes and presentations, we held a stop and leave class for Four Seasons hotel security staff, did a hands-only CPR class for the Ravenswood School paraeducators, and a hands-only CPR class for staff at a local business. CERT folks also participated in a firefighter rehab for the Truck Academy at the rescue site. I know our volunteers enjoy connecting with our folks that way. And then last week, our new fire marshal went with Heather and Amandeep to a community risk reduction leadership conference. Other things that have occurred over the last month is we held a community trust meeting in here on May 16th. And this is a group that is usually, I think, was established for a lot of our educators and our law enforcement groups. And so fire departments, it's just a way for us to connect with communities. We hosted it because we rotate through the different folks here. So I attended that. The fire response analysis report, nothing of interest. I'm usually paying close attention to our most important metric, which we display on graph 2. That's our total overall response time that we have that requirement with the county, I say, of 6:59. Our 12-month average is 6 minutes and 49 seconds at the 90th percentile, so we're meeting that metric now. We still do have a plan sometime this year in having a board study session, or at least a good chunk of one of our meetings dedicated to developing new internal metrics for us. New development update. The one thing I wanted to share, and I think probably everyone is aware of it because it's been in our papers, was the 80 Willow Road project, you know, has a little, I'll say hiccup in that it has been identified as a historical site. So whatever, you know, issue that causes for the developer is going to be between the developer, however that works in the city.
Yes,
And then just an awareness thing, and this is something very broad here that we, is that site is now open, or will be open shortly as kind of an event center and shared workspace. So they're planning, I think they generated some revenue and use out of it in the interim as they work their way through that. So that's what we had on that. New developments, city council rotations. I've attended 2 meetings since our last meeting. Those were both primarily because they were honoring John Johnston at both the East Palo Alto City Council and the Menlo Park City Council. East Palo Alto on April 22nd and Menlo Park on April 29th. Then I participated in the San Mateo County Wildland Fire Forum on Saturday, April 26th. A big event at the San Mateo County Fairgrounds, really well attended, and I sat on a panel. And the moderator was our supervisor, Jackie Spear. And also on the panel with me was Jed Wilson, who's our CAL FIRE fire chief for basically the San Mateo County unit. And then we had 2 fire survivors that were also on the panel. One was a woman from down in Pacific Palisades who lost her home, and another was a woman from the CZU fire that lost her home in that fire. So they shared their experiences with people on, you know, what are the important things you can do to prepare for fire, and the silly and goofy things they collected up and did, you know, as the fire was coming in. You know, when you don't have a plan, you collect all kinds of important things that aren't important. And so it was a really interesting conversation, I think really helpful for those that were in attendance there. Also on the AOSJPA front, we had a management committee meeting I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday. It was last Thursday. And we are having, in theory, a meeting tomorrow night of the actual.
Are you gonna meet the 5?
Whole committee. Not at the 5 one, I'll be at the 6 one, 6 or 6:30.
6:30.
Yeah, so I will be there. I think you at the 5 one are possibly meeting with Supervisor Canepa. So anyway, we'll probably have more information to share at our next meeting based on the outcome of that meeting there. And then also I attended along with Directors Corrali and Jones, the San Mateo County dedication ceremony. They were dedicating their new building there at 500, I don't know what the actual address is.
County Center.
Yeah, I know we all
Marshall.
met initially at the San Mateo County History Museum and sat in the, you know, the beautiful area in there, and there was a reenactment of the formation of the county, which was very interesting. And back in 1857, I didn't know we used to be part of San Francisco County until 1857.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Oh,
And at the time, when they became a county, there was 2,000 residents, most of whom lived in the Half Moon Bay area.
50 lived here in this area and 35 was up here.
It was a very rural county back at the time. So it was an interesting event, and really, really well attended. Still on the outstanding staff reports, we have current internal controls and electrification of fire service vehicles, and then also now added is the general Kansas City Wave California Fire Code fund. So that one we'll probably have back to you within the next 10 minutes from that. And then incident-wise, we only had one incident, and that was a structure fire over on Rittenhouse Avenue in Atherton on April 28th, and that was pretty easily extinguished. That concludes my fire chief's report.
Any question for the chief? Joe?
I have two questions, Chief, on the fire response analysis.
Sure.
On page 6, I'm looking at graph 4 there. I'm just curious about 2025, the right-hand column of the thing. It's showing where all these incidents are occurring. And unincorporated has, with only part of the year gone, has more than twice as many incidents as it had last year. And I just wondered if you know why unincorporated.
I'll
is
have to
having-
check, yeah, that looks like an anomaly there and some kind of classification error. But I agree, that is not correct, or can't be correct, so I'll get an answer.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you.
Sure.
Then I just had a quick question on page 10 of the staff report. It has the legend that explains the gray line, and it says LEMSA requirement, LEMSA. What is LEMSA?
That is our local EMS agency.
Oh,
So that is and that was the metric that I was chatting about a little bit earlier, where we have, in order to get the first responder unit monies, we have a requirement that we collectively throughout San Mateo County fire agencies respond to our ALS calls in 6 minutes and 59 seconds or less, 90% of the time. So that's, and the local EMS agency is the one that's developed that standard. And we entered into a contract through the ALSJPA to comply with that back in 2019.
I see, okay, thank you, I just.
Yes. No,
I had no idea.
yeah, we sometimes use, yes, lots of acronyms that don't always make a lot of sense. Anyway, thank you.
Any other questions for Chief? Thank you, Chief. Good.
Good transition to the next item.
Exactly. Right. So move on to item number 2, conduct a public hearing on the notice to destroy weeds, declaring weed to be a public nuisance. Open public comments. Michelle, is there anybody who want to talk on this issue?
Public comments?
There's no public comments, so we'll end the public comment session and now we'll move on to the hearing, closed hearing.
That was the hearing, yeah, now we're on the adoption
Oh,
on item 3.
item 3. So we'll move on to the item number 3. Chief?
That is really what you've done is the heavy lift was the public hearings. We provided at the last board meeting a list of all the properties and parcels. Now we're asking the board to adopt a resolution to undertake the removal of those weeds. We've given the public an opportunity to comment or protest. And so that's what we're asking the board to do with agenda item 3 is adopt a resolution authorizing the fire chief to abate the public nuisances by the removal of seasonal weeds. This is an annual hearing and request. With that, we'll take any questions.
Any questions?
No, but I'll move to adopt that
Okay.
resolution.
I'll second. So motion been made and second. Michelle?
Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crawley?
Aye.
Director Solano?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye. Motion carried. So we move on to item number 4, which is a public hearing and presentation on fire district vacancy. Chief?
This is gonna be a Francine thing. This is a new law
Francine.
that went into effect this year, and we are required annually to go through this process. So turn the floor over to Francine.
So, this is, Assembly Bill 2561, and this is a new requirement for public agencies to present the status of their vacancy, recruitment and retention efforts, any changes to policy in regards to recruitment and retention, to the public as well as to the governing board. In addition, we're required to invite labor groups to make presentations as well, and so we did, but, no labor group responded to the presentation, so I'll be making the presentation on behalf of the district. And I have my presentation on the screen here.
Oh.
Could I just go one question?
Yeah,
Just in this one or two sentences, what's the purpose of this?
so.
One, two.
And the county's copy.
Yeah, I think, the purpose initially was, I think, was on peace officers, because there were, positions that were remaining vacant for a long period of time, creating like additional workload and stress for other peace officers. But then they expanded it for all classifications within public agencies, and it's just a matter to be kind of transparent and talk about any, efforts to fill vacancies. And it's required, to be done annually prior to the approval of the budget, so that the governing board can listen to the presentation and then determine if there's any changes they want to make to the budget as a result of the presentation.
And at the risk of being a little cynical, not cynical, but realpolitik, one of the fundamental purposes is to provide organized labor an opportunity to appear before you.
Yes.
And share its views on the district's HR employment practices, in particular, how many vacancies it has in various positions.
Okay, thank you.
So the items, and it'll be a really quick presentation. So the items we're going to talk about is the Assembly Bill 2561 background, which we've kind of already talked about, the requirements, the vacancy status, recruitment process, and then retention efforts with the district. So as we kind of talked about, the AB 2561, this went into effect January 1 of this year. And it's a bill that requires public agencies to annually assess and address their vacancy rate to increase the transparency and accountability. And then we'll be bringing this to the board each year for review. Some of the requirements of the bill is that we give the status of vacancies. We talk about recruitment and retention efforts, identify any necessary policy changes. And then we also allow the recognized employee organization to make a presentation at the hearings, which we haven't, received any feedback back from them for that. There are additional requirements if your vacancy rates exceed 20% per bargaining group, but we don't have vacancy rates that high, so we didn't have to make the additional requirements. The vacancy status for the district for fiscal year 24-25, we have 152 budgeted positions and currently 6 vacancies. We have 1 vacancy in AFSCME, and that's a risk reduction officer. And then we have the remaining 5 vacancies in IFF District 10. We have the fire inspector, a deputy fire marshal, and then 3 firefighter currently engineer classifications that are vacant. And then our vacancy rate by labor group, on average, the vacancy rate is just under 4%, so it's 3.9% for the district. The vacancy rate for AFSCME is approximately 6.7%. That's 1 vacancy out of 15 authorized FTE. And then IFF District 10, 5 vacancies out of 111 authorized positions, so that's 4.5% for the vacancy rate. And for our recruitment process, the regulations aren't really clear on what information to share with the board about recruitment. So I just pulled some data for the last 2 years for the district's recruitment. So for the past 2 years, we had 13 recruitments for 18 openings. And the average time that we had each of those positions filled was approximately 25 days, and that was just to kind of allow time for a large application pool. During that time as well, we had 5 separations, so over that period, our turnover rate was approximately 3.4%, which is really low and a really good number. And then the only position that we had difficulty filling during those 2 years was the mechanic position. And if you recall, we did come back to the board to make a modification to try and help us fill that position. And we created a flexibly staffed where we had a mechanic 1, mechanic 2, so we can get more of an entry level candidate in. And we were able to successfully hire for that position, and that was out of all of our openings, that was the only one that we had a little bit of struggle with. But we do post all of our positions on our website. We, I think shortly after I hired, maybe within the first year or two, we changed to a new platform, which is called NeoGov, and their focus is on public sector. So we post all of our positions through the NeoGov portal, which provides a lot of benefits for public agencies regarding like blind screening. So we can go ahead and screen qualifications without knowing any information regarding gender, ethnicity. We're just looking purely at their qualifications. And it also posts to other job boards. So we use that. We use social media. We use specialized recruitment depending upon classification, you know, to different journals or publications, depending upon the need. Fire inspector. We also created during our last entry level recruitment, we created kind of this firefighter roadmap that just kind of talks about what is needed to kind of move into a firefighter position to help candidates. We also have job interest cards to kind of help candidates apply or let us know that they're interested in classifications with our openings in the district. And then lastly, some of the things that we, we offer to help with retention efforts, to keep, qualified candidates, interested or, we have a competitive pay and benefits package. We check through salary survey, through total comp, basically studies that we do when we're going through negotiations to see how much, other agencies in the district or in the area are providing for COLA. We have a flexibly combined paid time off plan where we combine vacation and sick time so they can use all their time. We provide a residency stipend, PEP. We have employee wellness programs and counseling service, training and career development. We provide cost of living adjustments. We do a modified schedule 4x10 for 40-hour employees, and we do have some remote work opportunities up to 1 day a week for certain classifications. And then also we promote a positive workplace culture by doing some team building activities, potlucks, annual employee recognition events, and monthly birthday celebrations. And that's it.
So, any questions for Francine?
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Thank you, Francine.
Sure.
Any questions? No questions. So remind me, why are we doing this again?
It's a state law.
It's a state law.
That you have a hearing, which you're about to have, you're about to open and then close public comment.
Okay.
There's nobody here, and before you do that, you have to receive this presentation from Francine and offer the organized labor units an opportunity to make a presentation as well.
So once we do all that, then the information goes to who?
Yeah,
Just-
well done.
It's done.
It, we just.
This was it.
Keep it
This
in-house and
presentation was the requirement.
Okay. So,
There's no action, you don't have to vote on anything, you don't have to do anything.
okay. So, I mean, what happens if we don't do it? I mean, is there any,
The
Go to jail or
statute has
something?
no enforcement mechanism,
okay,
so.
goodwill.
We all want to comply with our legal obligations, but in this particular case, there does not seem to be a penalty for not.
Comply, okay. All right. Sound like something. we need
Just
to
a
do.
team player.
We're putting.
Part of the team. And I don't know if, I don't remember if Francine mentioned it, but I know she did invite all of the labor organizations to come present.
Yeah, she did.
Oh,
So we need to vote on this.
There's no vote.
No vote?
we
You have
just-
to open the
No
public
action.
hearing.
Oh,
Well,
public hearing.
and close the public hearing.
All right. Gary said
Thank you,
we
Francine.
Sounds like you just did that.
just did that. We just opened and closed. We got anybody online, Michelle?
Okay. No, we do not.
We can close public hearing.
We'll close the public hearing. Then we don't have to vote on it. We'll just keep moving. And we're going to item number 5.
Well done.
Thank you, Gary.
Consent.
So, item 5, through 10 is consent calendar, and, is there any board member that want to take any items off?
I'll move to approve.
Wait a minute,
Oh.
I mean,
I'll second.
before you do that,
Oh,
I
sorry.
have one item I want to take off.
Well,
Item number 10. There was something in that report that I just need a clarification.
Item 10.
Item 10. So we will move for consent between, item 5 and 9.
Sure, I'll move to approve, items 5 through 9 on consent.
and I'll second.
Motion been made, and a second, there's a second on it by Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, item number 10, there was mainly one area. And let me find the page real quick, I got it marked. On page 581, I guess
581.
581 on the number,
Yeah.
581. In,
Give us a second. okay?
sure, it's just something simple, and probably just, oh, yeah, wait. Francine shaking her head, you know. You got it, Chuck? Okay, there's two, notation in the, on that page where it said Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. It was printed, but then it was taken out, and then it was printed again. Is there I just wanna do it again?
Yeah.
Yes. It was just
Okay.
moved.
Okay, I thought there might have been something else going on. Okay, all right, so that's all I had. I just wanted clarification on that.
So Robert, just a comment on the investment committee / finance committee did review the entire set of policy changes. There's no substantial changes to our policy, so consistent investment strategy. There was the reordering of it, and then there was the renaming of the credit rating agency. In the board, so that
We would those were the two.
Okay. Well, that little typographical things, I didn't know. So thank you for clarifying that. So can I have a motion to approve item
I'll
number
move.
10?
I'll move to approve the district's revised investment policy and designate the treasurer and the district's treasurer designation for fiscal year 25-26.
There's a second?
I'll second.
Jerry, second. Any more questions?
I have a question, did you pass this by our auditor by any chance? I just wondered if there's any conflict having the treasurer and the finance manager, we've done that in the past, but normally it's better not to do it if you don't have to.
No, so basically it's not a conflict of interest at this time, and the auditors are, they actually review all of our policies and they actually have no concern as far as that.
Thank you.
So motion been made and second, Jill?
Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crowley?
Aye.
Director Solano?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on to item number 11.
I will take this one, and we have Bertie here if there are any questions. This is related to our task force appointments. We never have a crystal ball that allows us to determine when we're gonna actually get deployed, so when we do, we have quite a few expenditures and also revenues that come in that offset those in entirety, so. This has happened in the past, and we've had 2 deployments with both the Paradise and the Milton deployments. I think there's even a third one with another single resource that we sent out. And really what we're requesting the board to do today is increase our expenditures and appropriations in like amounts. There's no cost to the district, the revenues and expenditures wash completely. And so it's really an administrative move, and like I said, this is gonna happen probably anytime we have a significant deployment where we don't have enough in appropriations and expenditures already. With that, open it to any questions.
Joe?
I want to ask a question on page 589. It's the second page of the staff report. And it's the last paragraph at the bottom of the page. So what I understand is we didn't submit the full amount, we didn't submit a request for the full amount we could have requested. Because we didn't have data, but
So the request is two-part. Immediately upon return, FEMA allows us to submit for a 75% advance. That is the $832,000 you're seeing in that staff report. And that is without any backup, just a quick little projection on our end. Because it was our first time doing it this way, we projected on the lower end rather than on the higher end, because it has been since 2019 that we had a full type 1 deployment. So we were working out of off of old numbers. That's what FEMA wants us to do. They want us to work off of a previous deployment to project the 75%. So that was our initial request. The full claim was submitted in April.
so what I'm wondering is, when it becomes your second request, are we gonna be able to request the full amount? Or will we always be kind of one behind or some behind?
We request when we submit the request, it is for the full amount of
No,
the,
I'm talking about the initial request.
no, we will always only be allowed 75%.
But here's,
You'll be able to do 75% of Hurricane Milton the next time.
I see, so you can do it for a higher amount the next time.
Exactly. And it is a lesson learned. There are different methodologies. So with our next one, I already have a plan on how we can get as close to the 75% as possible.
I see. That's what I was asking, just because, I mean, I understand why, I just wondered if we can avoid the problem in the future. Okay, and I wondered about our accounting system, but it's not an issue with the accounting system at all.
Not at all.
And then just, when do you expect, just out of curiosity, when do you expect this claim from April to be paid?
FEMA has been very proactive in paying all of the deployments or all the claims. With the uncertainties going on within the federal government right now and all of the reviews, everything has been delayed. It's not a matter of if we will be paid, it's when we will be paid. And we're looking, they actually last week gave us a presentation that it's taking almost 200 days to review a claim of our magnitude. So a type 1 can take anywhere between 9 months to a year.
And this is Doge and all of that, is that?
No, this is not anything to do with Doge. This is just FEMA because of all of the different things that they've put into place in terms of reviews. They've had all the turnover due to a lot of people taking the fork in the road offer and the retirements. They are substantially understaffed. They've had probably 10 to 15 of their staff retire in the last 4 months. And their staffing levels went from 20 down to about, 9 and still dwindling.
But that was due to Doge.
That's due to all of the changes that are happening at the federal level.
Well, they used to be very slow, they got much better, and now
They're slower.
we're seeing it go back the other way.
It'd be like watching paint dry.
Well, yeah, but 200 days, that's
That's
probably
almost
happy
the
year.
whole year.
Just a side note on that, you'll notice that there is the Helene claim on the table within the staff report. Just this week, I did get confirmation that it is approved and that it will be paid. And once that happens, that's probably 30 to 60 days until it hits our bank. That was an $80,000 or I'm sorry, a $70,000 claim. So, and that was submitted in January. So they are trying to work on, the smaller claims first, because the others take such a long time in reviewing.
Was that the one in North Carolina?
Helene was, yes,
Yeah.
North Carolina.
And then just one other question about that. My understanding is, and maybe it's wrong, but I was under the impression that your claims were almost always approved in whole. In other words, they didn't take exception to them. Is that still correct?
That was prior to 2019, when there was a large, a system-wide audit of FEMA and the urban search and rescue system. There have been a lot of procedures put in place to be able to make sure that all our documentation is correct. And yes, Amy had a very good high percentage of everything being approved. I think in the last couple of claims, we've only had probably $1,000 worth or even less than that denied. We're expecting the same. We actually brought Amy back to help guide me through some of those nuances. Even the Milton claim was a little bit difficult for her too, because of all of the different processes put in place by FEMA in terms of submittals.
Thank you. I'm not questioning performance or anything. I'm just trying to understand the whole process.
I think the good news on all this is while the process of reimbursement has slowed down, they did put this estimation process in place, the 75%.
Yeah.
That was not historically there.
Right.
Historically, you had to front the whole thing
Yeah.
and wait until the final claim was basically approved and paid by them. Where now, you know, on a go-forward basis, we'll do better on the 75%, but 75% was not there historically. So we won't be out as much as, you know, the process has slowed down, but we won't be waiting for everything on a go-forward basis.
Rob?
Yeah, how much, can you estimate is the outstanding, amount of money that FEMA owes us to date?
It's what's in the table. It's the $1.7 million is what they owe us.
1.75
Yes.
It's 1.7 million?
That's what they owe.
Yeah, that's.
It's a lot of money. That they owe us.
And the 75% does help. We have not taken advantage of that before. Now that we do, that I have a methodology for it, every deployment that we go out on will include that. And we can start that from the moment that our staff goes out the door. I can't submit it until the team returns.
Yeah.
But I can definitely get that in within, 30 days.
What's the highest amount that they've owed us?
This actually is
Guesstimate.
the highest amount.
This is?
I went back and I only went back about 5 fiscal years.
Oh, well,
So,
that's fine.
the largest amount that they owed us at one time was for Dorian and that was fiscal year 2021.
Uh-huh.
Since then, this has been the largest that we
This
have
is the largest.
in terms of outstanding claims.
Thank you.
So what is it?
Mostly driven off of the
So
fact that we
money
had type 1
that we're
deployment.
fronting.
It was the
An
type one,
extended type 1 deployment.
correct.
So,
How did that affect it?
The type 1 deployment is the full team, it's a subset of the team that goes out. So it's a full 77 person roster.
80, it's an 80-person roster.
And so an 80-person roster going out, and then for multiple days, so it's just more expensive.
More
And then
expensive.
depending on what the transportation plan is, how we get them there, if we fly them, we bus them, it all affects the cost of it.
I have a question. I'm still trying to understand the budget. So every year, how much appropriation that you're asking from us or you put in the budget for?
We do not because it fluctuates. It is, it's better practice to come back to you and let you know how much it actually, the reimbursement claim is. Because it canceled itself out, we don't put that in the budget on an annual basis.
From a historical, just like over the last 5 so years we've been doing this, what is the, I guess, the average cost? I mean, that claim reimbursement that we have,
It does not,
is there a progression to this or is
we're
it?
talking probably $30,000 a year. This year, was the largest because we had 6 FEMA deployments. All of them were single resources, with the exception of Milton.
Compared to last year.
Yes, we've literally had one every year, per fiscal year.
And one thing I just want to correct a misstatement I made, because I included the Palisades Fire and Heritage completely
It does
separate.
not.
That's an OES deployment. These are just FEMA
FEMA.
ones. We have enough monies budgeted, so we don't ask for an increase in appropriations, even though that number is big. And then one quick clarifying thing that Bertie might be able to share. Of that $1.7 million that FEMA owes us, we owe other agencies a pretty significant amount also, right? For their salary costs. So we haven't fronted the entire amount. These other agencies have paid their employees. The money's gonna come to us and then we're gonna send it off to them.
We like to pass.
I don't know if you have an estimate of that amount, how much is gonna go out to other agencies?
So, the, table on page 3 reflects what Menlo Park's portion is. We had close to $1 million. The 75% advance that we were speaking to earlier was actually taken and distributed evenly, well, not evenly, based on the number of personnel and the number of days that their members were out. They've already received what is equivalent of that advance that FEMA gave us. So we're talking, I don't have it in front of me, I can actually get that information to you, Chief.
I think we
But
need
it's
it-
1.1 million.
It gives us a pretty good,
that other agencies are
Exactly.
on the hook for,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
it's the 1756 minus the 657.
Yeah,
So we're waiting for 657 of our money.
Right.
And we're
And
waiting
the
for
rest,
1.1 million of money that will go to other agencies to support the task force.
Yeah, just wanted to put it in that perspective. There are other agencies that have some significant skin in the game in addition to us. And we're just the clearinghouse for a good amount of it.
well, I mean, basically, we're not gonna get the full 1.756 that's coming back to the district. We have to
It'll come to
dole
us
it out,
and
yeah,
then
as
we'll
the
send it
pass
out.
through, yeah. But we're not keeping the
We're
one,
gonna keep
yeah,
657,000 of
but
it.
we're not keeping
we're
one
sending
point
the rest
seven
to other
five six,
people.
yeah, exactly.
Any other questions you have for,
Thanks, Bertie.
thanks. So can I get
So
a,
I'll move
hey,
to authorize a budget amendment, by increasing the expenditures and revenues in the special revenue fund by $2,588,835 for fiscal year 24, 25 for, California Task Force 3, USAR, deployment.
motion been made, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Gary, all in favor? All opposed? Ayes have it, we move on to item number 12. Agenda item number 12, I guess Francine.
You get it, 19 or Elaine? Elaine.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so good evening, everyone. So for this item, I just want to discuss the overview of the process. So today or tonight, we're just going to discuss the appropriation limit, how we calculate it, and what's the amount proposed for fiscal year 25-26. And then next month, since we actually have a requirement to make this, publicly available for at least 15 days, we're gonna adopt it in the June board. So just a little bit of a refresher, so this, appropriation limit or GAN initiative, is a result of Proposition 13 and Proposition 4. So Proposition 13, as everyone is aware, this actually limit, the property tax rate to 1%, and then assess, value to a maximum of 2%. And Proposition 4 is really, limiting, the growth of, revenue that is allowed, to be spent, by the government. So as a result, there is a cap or a limit on the local government revenue that can be appropriated or spent during a certain fiscal year. So typically, this limit is, really for proceeds of taxes. So if we have, let's say, 5 sources of revenues, 4 are actually property taxes. One is, let's say, licenses and permits. only, the revenues that are actually related to proceeds of taxes are, eligible, are actually capped into this limit, or to this, appropriation limit. The rest is, we can spend, there's no limit on it. But if it is something that's, can be allocated to two different, sources, let's say for interest, we allocate it proportionally, and then let's say 5 million, and then 80% is, for property taxes, 20% is, for licenses and permits that's related to that interest that we earn. That 80% will be included in the calculation of, the appropriation limits, the appropriation subject to the limit. So for fiscal year 25-26, so the appropriation limit is adjusted annually based on the basis of population and per capita income. This is actually provided by California Department of Finance. So for the per capita income, if you can turn on page 596 of the packet. So page 596 of the packet, the percentage that we actually use for this is 6.44%. And then the other factor that we incorporated, which is again based on the formula that the state actually provided to us, is on page 607. So this is the population change for the county of San Mateo in total. So you can see, I think I highlighted it here, it's 0.07. So taking into consideration those two factors, I think on page, page 593. So if you turn over to page 593. So the total adjustment in percentage, again, in taking into account in those two factors that we actually reference is it's actually 6.5%. So we multiply that to the appropriation limit for fiscal year 24-25 that was adopted. So for 25-26, our proposed appropriation limit is $179.2 million. And then in relation to that, we also calculated how much is actually subject to that limit and how much are we actually under or over the limit. So for fiscal year 25-26, the appropriation subject to limit, which is based on our revenue budget, our proposed revenue budget, which is considered proceeds of taxes and allocated interest earnings. It's $92.3 million. So we are actually well below the limit. So we have an excess of 86.9 million, at least 86.9 million for fiscal year 25-26. So that's it actually for the appropriation limit calculation, and yes, there are
Any questions? Any questions, Chuck?
I just curious, maybe the answer, probably the answer is no, but have you looked at on a sustainable level, what's happening to that? Right now, we're about half of it and so forth. Is that gap narrowing? Is it widening?
It's actually widening, and I did some sort of calculation. Let's say, for example, if we actually have like different growth between these two, like let's say our revenue growth is let's say 5%, and the factor like basis for the calculation of the appropriation limit is also like 5%. If we keep it on the same rate, we will never be actually over the limit. The only time I think I made some scenarios as well. The only time we are actually going to go over the limit is if there's like a 2% difference between the growth from our revenues and then the 2 to 3% like difference between the growth of our revenue versus the growth for the appropriation limit. And if that happens, it's going to be at least 35-36 years from now. So I think
That would have to happen every year.
yeah, so it's like 36 from now. If there's like 2-3% like year by year, then eventually our revenues are gonna catch up with the limit. And again, it's 3 decades from now.
Okay, thank you, I hear that.
I'd just like to offer a comment, because I was thinking about the same thing, and I was like, I should chart that out, and of course, Elaine has already done it, so, thank you, Elaine.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If
I'm
not,
glad you're on top of it.
Elaine's amazing.
He looked at it from a perspective, it might still be relevant, he might still be here.
No.
No.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you, Elaine. Can I get a motion?
Oh, it's just a discussion item.
Go with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
fine.
accept the report.
Thank you. Let's move on to item number 13.
I will hand it off to Elaine in just a moment. I'll kick it off by sharing, this is the second time that the budget is coming before the board. It's been in front of the finance committee twice also for review, and recommended we move it forward to the board. The intent is for the board hopefully to adopt this preliminary budget tonight and then the final budget in June. And I know at our last meeting, we had made a request to board members, if there was anything that required significant staff work in the form of questions, please let us know. We haven't received any, so hopefully there'll be questions that we can answer. Just with that, over to you, Elaine.
Yep, thank you, Chief. So the chief mentioned, so last month, we presented the preliminary budget, I have outlined as well in the, our internal, budgeting process, we actually highlighted, some key points of interest as well in the budgets, those amounts that are actually worth it to point out. And then, we also addressed, questions last month. So this time around, we're hoping to actually adopt, a preliminary budget. With this, I'm just really gonna focus on, two changes that, happened, from the April, board meeting to the May board meeting. So if you can turn on page 716.
Two pages in your back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on page 716, this one like significant change that we incorporated in this monthly preliminary budget is related to SB 813 supplemental tax revenue. So from last month, we actually reduced it by 243,500, and the main reason of this is the main driver really for this, property tax, source of revenue is the completion of, new development projects, new housing, new constructions, or if there's like, a lot of like, turnover, not turnover, but, sales, like property tax, and property like, sales, but, within the past year, and just for the amount of money that we are actually what we actually received, right now as of, April, we have seen like a huge decline. Like, for example, like, for this fiscal year, we actually budgeted $1.8 million for this particular, revenue source. But so far, we've only received $532,000. So that's like a 1.3 like million dollar difference. Although we're still expecting some more in the next like month and a half. But the change is actually significant. So with that being said, we actually project that if this downward trend is going to continue or even in just similar level, we wanted to be cautious in how much revenue will appropriate because of the continuing change and the or slowdown in the real estate market. So that's really how we actually get into these numbers. You're taking into account what we have so far and then what we're projecting next year if we have like the same level of market within those sales and new constructions and new developments. And then the note B is really just kind of like the balancing figure because that's the transfer out. So since we changed the revenue downwards, so we're also going to change the transfer out downwards with the same amount. And then the one other change, really one significant change that we made is on the next page, which is page 717. So this is for the capital improvement projects fund. So last month, we presented as part of our budget is $130,000 budget for fire station, alerting lights and dorm selectors project. But after further discussions with the team, we figured this isn't really a capital project. So this is more of just a purchase of some like components or modular components and installing those components into the fire some of the fire stations. So it's not really a capital project per se. So we decided to remove it or take it out from the TIP budget, but we're not adding additional funding to the facilities program because we think that the budget that we have right now for facilities could cover this specific project if purchased. And that's it for the changes in the budget.
Any questions for Elaine? Chuck,
I have about 5 questions.
go for it. You got 5 minutes.
I wanted to ask about page 623. Is that where it is? I'm sorry. 620, yeah, 623. Training cap, I guess the question is more for the chief.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you about kind of the history of training captain and so forth. We used to long ago, we had not long ago, but maybe 8 years ago or something, we had a training captain. And then we decided it needed to be upgraded. And so it became a division chief position. And now we're re-adding the training captain, but we still have the division chief. And I'm just sort of curious why we need 2 people doing it and what the difference is between the 2 and so forth.
And in full transparency, and I don't know exactly what it looked like 8 years ago. I know we had, because I know Chief Schaefer had been the division chief in charge of training at some point in time and had, I think, Chief Ellis working for him as the training captain. So we've had a division chief in charge of training and EMS and the shop. And what we're finding now is just with the workload and the amount of training that we're doing, is that Chief Ellis, as the division chief, is having to do a lot of the duties of the training captain. So our department is known for the number of training hours that we do, the amount of training we do, and as a result, the level of competence we have. So part of this is to allow Chief Ellis to also pay a little bit more attention to the EMS side of things and manage the shop, which he generally doesn't have time to do because he's doing training captain functions. So the addition of the training captain will allow him to get his head up and be able to look at it at 30,000 foot level that we'd like for a division chief. And then also, this was an ask, from almost the day I got here from Chief Ellis, was the need for help. And I had said no for quite a bit of time until he almost got to the breaking point this year. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to throw you the life preserver with the addition of that, but show me what it is that we need help with, what we're gonna do, what other departments our size have. And there's 2 other agencies in the county that also have 2 training captains running their training bureau. I think they have a battalion chief that also oversees it. We happen to have a division chief, which is fine. God has some additional duties beyond that, but that's the primary reason behind it, is just he is beyond capacity, as far as the workload goes. So it's really a workload issue more than anything. And again, it is why we are who we are. And I've witnessed that in the 3 years that I've been here, that the level and intensity with which we provide training and train is, it's just a different, higher level. It is what makes us so very good, that and the people we hire. I hope that answers.
Yes, thank you. Let me ask you then also about page 628. This is, they're talking about a search at page 628.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess, it's the first section under budget highlights and new initiative. I'm wondering who's going to have fees to these caches? One of the issues has been that we have these caches sitting out there, but they're behind locked gates.
That's a great question. It almost feels like somebody's set up to ask this question for me. One of the things, first of all, we're kind of putting in an earmark for us to be able to develop these caches, which is what we're asking for. When I was interviewing our new fire marshal, Gage Schleiss, he had been working on a very tight budget up there with Chief DeLay in San Bruno, and came to us during his interview with some ideas about what they're doing with their current limited budget and caches. And it was really a great idea that I hope we can steal. They're buying Connex boxes. And in the Connex box, and 2/3 of it, there is cash supplies for the CERT team. And there's also some resiliency supplies, like some foods and some things like that. And then in the back third, there's a resiliency unit that will include a Starlink, so that anyone in and around that can have a hotspot and connect, and it can be CERT members or anyone else in the community. Also, it has photovoltaic cells on the roof for charging stations, so you can charge your phone. And then that was a question I asked them, I'm like, well, how about keys? It's all done remotely via Wi-Fi. You can unlock it remotely so that you don't have to wait for somebody. And I don't have the specific details on how that works, but they have a plan, so you don't have to have a special person with a special key. There will be people that will be able to remotely unlock it and be able to open it up so that it will be accessible to certain members. And I don't know if it'll be biometrics or how the specifics are, but there will likely be some kind of manual key, and there'll also be an electronic key that will work. So
Okay.
I was, really excited by that idea. So because that's been a challenge for us, right?
Well, the
Who's
problem
gonna
is
maintain it?
we have the stuff, but nobody can get in there. You have to leap over a fence and.
Yeah, that will, and hopefully we're gonna find some people that will sponsor places where we can put them that won't need to be behind a fence. And these will be hardened so people can't break into them, and then when we need them, and I say we, I mean the CERT teams in the communities, they'll be open and available.
How big is the Connex spot?
I mean, I don't know what size they were planning on there, it could be like you see on the back of a semi, or it could be smaller, so I don't know.
So it's just big storage unit.
Yeah.
Steel
It's a
storage.
container, a
Yeah.
steel container.
It's like those things,
22 feet.
but
or
you
44
can get
feet.
them in all sizes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
generally, I don't know what the vision is for how much we need, or,
That's why you say it's secure, because it's a steel
yeah.
container.
It's hard to get into those
As
things.
long as they don't bring a forklift to take it away.
Everything is impenetrable.
That'd be a big one.
Great. So hopefully that answered your question. I'll have more information to you before we start building these things. We'll share it with EPREP. I'm really excited. I think our CERT teams are gonna be really excited about it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, thank you, yeah,
Chuck, it's like the one that's over at the church at Faith, that box,
right. Well, now they're on wheels,
yeah.
but they're behind, they would roll them in and they put a gate around it, you couldn't get in without breaking in. Okay,
I love the idea of the Starlink, by the way, just a comment, I mean, that is fundamental change in connectivity in disaster situations, so that's a really high value addition.
I would like to ask, again, it's not that I'm opposed to it, I'm just trying to understand what we're starting to do or what's going on. I'm looking at page 629 now, the Explorer Scholarship Program.
Sure.
And it's talking about a maximum cost of $4,300. I'm a big scouting fan, I mean, I've been one of those leaders for a long time, but what are we buying with this money? Where's the money going for
For
the?
that $4,300,
Yeah.
and this is a program we started last year, and we're highlighting it again. We only had one applicant. And we sponsored this young man through the College of San Mateo Academy program, so we pay for their tuition and all of their supplies. So that's
For fire training.
for fire training, yeah, so we're trying to take people through our Explorer program that still have an interest and sponsor them, and it's need-based also. And so that's what we're paying for, is really, it's the tuition at College of San Mateo. And if they need gear rental, sometimes we'll provide them the gear. Yeah, but usually when you go through without being sponsored, You have to pay for tuition, you have to rent turnouts and rent self-contained breathing apparatus, so we cover all those costs,
How far will this tuition take them?
100%.
All the way through the program?
Yeah, it's just,
So
it's
one year
a 4 month academy,
4 months.
but that is, yeah.
And what are they when they get out? What is?
Well, assuming they come back here and spend some time with us, they would get their firefighter 1 certification.
Oh, they would.
Yeah, and the way the fire agencies are working in San Mateo County, anyone who now graduates through the College of San Mateo is turnkey and ready to go to work for a fire agency. We don't have to put them, if they've been through on their own, we don't have to put them through it again, because they've already gone through with all of our other firefighters. It's the exact same program. It's basically our in-service academy and it's nowhere else, it's not happening anywhere else in the state where you have sponsored folks that have been hired already by fire agencies going through side by side with college students.
Good
But
question.
they're holding them to an incredibly high standard.
And do our recruiting rules permit us to make that a preference or a criterion for selection?
For them having gone through there,
Yeah,
that's a great question that we're gonna talk about probably at a future meeting, because we have a proposal that we're gonna share with the board about creating a pilot program about hiring directly from those folks. We've started to see some young people from our communities go through there that aren't sponsored and haven't been hired by another agency, and they're putting themselves through. And it could really give us a great opportunity to hire some local young folks directly into our department. So that it's for another meeting, but yes, we are already looking at that as
it'd be a
being able to
shame,
direct hire.
be a shame to sponsor them and then not be able to hire them.
Oh, sure, it's whether it's them or some other kids that, have, put together money and gone through it. We're seeing some, yeah. And we have a lot of folks participating in the training, and so we have the ability to see what these young men and women are made of as they're going through it, because they're going through a lot of adversity and hard work. And, you get a good indication of what kind of firefighter they might be.
And my last question is on page 631. And it relates to workers' compensation, where we're putting an extra $500,000 into workers' compensation. And it made some the comment about the higher cost of workers' comp and so forth. What's going on that workers' comp is costing us?
I'm gonna let Nancy answer that, because she's very passionate about it, and it's, unfortunately, something we don't have control of. Nancy?
So, the district is self-insured for workers' compensation up to what we call SIR, or self-insured retention level. And it's just, as the chief said, you don't have any control over claims. And because there are so many presumptive injuries and illnesses within the fire service that can be very expensive, like heart or cancer, people getting surgeries. And so when we budget for the workers' comp, we're looking historically, but even when I look historically, it can fluctuate, like incrementally double from year to year. So just depending upon the number of claims, where the claims are at, if we're doing any closure of claims with, based on PD ratings or buying out future medical, we bear the cost of it, and it's very expensive. But when we do our annual claims meeting with our workers' comp provider, they, and obviously they provide for other agencies locally and not locally. Because we are all fire, they say that we're doing really well, because this is the industry. It's kind of the cost of doing business. Whereas if you have a city that has a more, balanced workforce, you have a lot of miscellaneous classifications, but the public safety classifications are very expensive when it comes to worker comp injury. In addition to that, we also have 4850 pay, under Labor Code 4850, which offers 1 year of full salary while they're off for injury. So it's very expensive, kind of hard to really guess at what it might be. We really budgeted.
You have that in accelerating output factor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every one of those
Right.
surgeries
Yeah.
not have 30 or 40% from a
Right,
year
yeah.
ago, so
It's,
it's, the cost of medical services is
it's very
escalated
expensive,
so
yeah.
high.
Are we doing anything to look to see if what underlying causes might be, or if there's some pattern there in terms of age or anything?
Yeah, I mean, we do every, like, I think it's, I don't know if it's twice annually that we, look in a report that looks at, you know, years of, like, tenure, age, you know, all the, you know, basically what classification, what station gets the most injuries. You know, we also bring our injury report without any personal information to our safety committee to kind of see if there's any changes we can make to, you know, reduce injuries. But it's,
And there's no relationship to COVID or anything like that?
no, COVID, even though COVID really spiked our claims, when we look back at our report and we had just a huge number of claims, the cost per claim was considerably. Okay. Sorry.
Waving at a flag.
The cost per claim was considerably low because the COVID claims were open and then shut. But, you know, we have, you know, people with, you know, that, you know, basically you can retire out, you know, with an injury, and then we're still, unless we close it out and they agree to pay for all future medical, then we're paying for any future medical on that claim. And just like the last month, I'm looking at this report and someone retired, you know, many years out of surgery, you know, and those surgeries are expensive. We're looking at the monthly bills. So we do look, you know, we try, we're always kind of thinking of, you know, how to help kind of, you know, either expedite the process to get people back to work, that, you know, can and want to come back. And one idea that we actually just were kind of talking about was having a nurse case manager, you know, assigned to claims that can help follow the claim, because some, you know, sometimes a claim can get stuck and it just seems like it takes a lot of time to get, you know, your pre-authorization for maybe some, you know, someone wants a surgery or some type of shot or some type of scan, and have to go to underwriting. And so we try to kind of have a list of things that are already pre-authorized to help kind of expedite that process. But we are looking at ways to make it more efficient, but it's just, this industry is just a little bit harder because there are a lot of presumptive,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That was all I had.
Any other questions for Gary?
No, I have none.
No,
Finance committee went through this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make a motion to.
Can I
Oh,
ask a
yeah,
question?
yeah.
Okay. This is just be one question.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's probably something, Chief, I follow up with you later, but I'm interested in finding out, is the Explorer Scholarship Program the same with the Explorer Program, that's tied in together, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Explorers are the only ones that are eligible to apply.
And the age I see is age 14 to 21. And so the 14-year-olds are enrolled into a program at Skyline or Indiana College or wherever.
College
Yeah.
of San Mateo.
Oh,
CSM.
I don't know what age limit, you know,
I mean, it's okay.
what the requirements are age-wise for you to go to the firefighter one academy. My guess is at 14, you can't go.
Yeah.
Is it 18? Okay.
Yeah.
The Explorer program starts at age 14.
Right,
Sure,
yeah.
But the eligibility for the fire academy is 18.
Is 18, okay, just wanted to clarify, thanks.
Got it.
All right, Virginia, you wanted to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to adopt the district's fiscal year 25-26 preliminary budget and full-time equivalent staffing level.
Any,
I'll second it.
Gary have seconded. Any other questions? If not, Michelle?
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Crowe,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Can I just give
With that,
thank you to all the work that he's done, because this has been honed through every time we have a finance committee meeting, and so Elaine's just been super, so thank you, Elaine.
And it's 100-page budget.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I noticed.
But I think the process is really good. So thank you.
I think the data here, where you got it broken out, for each one of the sections makes me, I mean, helpful for me. So I know you was up a long time trying to put this together. So, moving on to item number 15. 14, thank you. And that item number 14, I don't have anything in my packet, but consider where to place the following proposed agenda item from April 15th, 2025 board meeting on the future meeting agenda. Are there anything we have? Anybody got anything put on it?
So you have the one item that we tonight should be discussing from Director Solano and
Yeah.
then voting whether we want to put it on the agenda.
So, anybody got any comments before we just vote?
I'd like to understand what it is we're planning to discuss, because we've already discussed the San Francisco Bay emergency response multiple times. The airport angle, I think, was related to, if I recall right, airport extension. So I would like to hear more about kind of what the discussion topic is, since we've already covered one of the two.
Rob, I think this, your item, right?
Okay, well, you all have a packet that Michelle made copies of. And the first sheet talks about all the agencies that have dispatch and rescue responsibilities on San Francisco Bay, including the Palo Alto Airport, which is that first sheet that you have. The second sheet are all the call signs that are assigned by OES and county communications relative to those. And if you look unfortunately, the pages aren't numbered, but if you count 3 pages in, you'll see AB 77 that goes down to BOA P9, which you'll see that where it talks about boats. And you'll see us, Menlo Park, we have an airboat, which is 77, which is airboat 77, which is our station designation 77.
Which page are you on, Rob? In this,
Page 3 of the dispatch codes that you
the
have there.
page, the 3 physical
One,
pages or
two,
1, 2,
different.
3?
I
Okay.
think they're right there.
Backside.
The backside of the third page. Okay.
Okay, so you'll see AB 77, which is a Menlo Park, one of our boats, which is the airboat. Then you'll see boat 1120, which are Redwood City fire boats. Then you'll see a South San Francisco boat, which is 28. Then again, you'll see under boat 77, you'll see another Menlo Park designation. So, and then the next one under boat 9, it appears that we're south of the Dumbarton Bridge. We are the only actual responsibility for south of the Dumbarton. But the issues that probably the biggest issue we have is our council had researched this and found out that we only go to the shore area of our fire district and not into the bay. So the only real county ultimate rescue responsibilities, according to their charter, is the San Mateo County Harbor District. But yet, if you look at the dispatch and the call signs relative to that, and the other sheet, you don't see anything relative to the San Mateo County Harbor District as a emergency response entity. So what I think we should discuss with this is since the San Mateo County Harbor District has the entire rescue responsibilities according to their resolution document by the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, we should request that the San Mateo Board of Supervisors amend and prepare a resolution removing the rescue responsibilities from the San Mateo County Harbor District involving the Menlo Park Fire District boundaries. So I think that's a solution for us to have that jurisdictional authority south of the Dumbarton Bridge and amend that original designation that was given to the Harbor District back in the 30s. And then secondly, if the Board of Supervisors will not revise or prepare a resolution, I think we should that either the San Mateo County Harbor District or the county communications should provide funding to the Menlo Park Fire Protection District for rescues on the San Francisco Bay that encompass the shoreline and the bay for the district. So it's something that's left out in the, that's left up in the air here. You know, it could be well-defined. I emailed and I included the chief as a CC to try to find out Palo Alto Fire, what their standard operating procedure is for that airport, for Palo Alto Airport. And I never got a response. I was referred to by Ken Duker, who's their emergency director for their preparedness. And he works out of the county attorney's office, county manager, excuse me, office. So I think this is a huge hole here that we have. If you go through the actual dispatch codes that are used by county communications, you'll see there is a channel for the Coast Guard. There's some channels there for police and fire that are not part of the San Mateo County Communications Group. So I think this needs to be well-defined. And that's why I brought it up as a discussion item for us. And I know that the East Palo Alto community is concerned about the expansion of the airport there. And I'm sure they want to get some definition as to who's actually responsible for rescues in case what happened, what was it, 1999, where an airplane did crash there. And also, I got the actual airboats and boats that we have as a fire district through Task Force 3. And we have 1, 2, 3. We have 10 boats that can be deployed in any type of a disaster situation that we have. And I think that needs to be defined also as to, you know, what our responsibility is for those types of rescues. That's why I would like it as a agenda item to speak about, one, the airport rescue responsibilities, the responsibilities for rescue south of the Dumbarton Bridge. And thirdly, to find out, since we're paying over $400,000 a year for us to have our airboats and our boats available, that should we be compensated for that, or should we just keep it as auto aid, mutual aid the way it is now? So that's why I'd like it as a discussion item.
Gary, you raised it.
Yeah, so my only comment is, if we kind of rewind and replay, we had this discussion sometime during the last year, while I was board president. So we had a full discussion about San Francisco Bay response. I believe the board concluded that we weren't, that no change was going to be, you know, kind of processed or moved forward on it. And the board became comfortable with the current mutual aid structure. there was a long discussion about the way the mutual aid system works on the water, the fact that the Coast Guard actually has the responsibility, but all of these different agencies and boats all do respond. They very often, in most of the calls on the San Francisco Bay, from South San Francisco all the way south, typically it's multiple boats responding, not us alone. It's South San Francisco, it's boat, the Redwood City boat deploys out. But my bigger issue on it is, we already had this discussion. And then as it relates to the Palo Alto Airport, you know, we cover, as part of our district, the city of East Palo Alto. And we have responsibility in East Palo Alto regardless of the cause of an incident in East Palo Alto. So I'm lost on why we want to spend more time on this topic.
Well, I'll help you.
In staff.
I'll help you, Gary. We had this discussion before and we referred the chief to talk to our county executive about this and see if it was a LAFCO issue or if it was going to be in informal discussion. And from December 2003, it just went away. And now it resurfaced again because of the situation over in East Palo Alto where they're concerned about the airport and the expansion of the airport and who those rescue responsibilities are going to be. The Coast Guard does not have any airboats. The Coast Guards cannot effectuate an effective rescue in the marsh area. The only route that can, according to our Task Force 3 and County Communications, is us with our 2 airboats that we have and our Odyssey boats that we have at Station 77. So it falls under our responsibility to do this. And we need to have the ultimate responsibility so our chief and our command staff can effectuate a proper rescue and have a proper command structure. So if you want to just blow it off, which I think you are, okay.
Well,
And
I think,
well,
let me say,
this involves, excuse me,
Gary,
this
right.
involves the rescue responsibilities, not only for the people in East Palo Alto and the Bellhaven area, okay, but it also now incorporates that airport, and the Palo Alto Fire Department does not have the capability in order to effectuate rescues. We do. Palo Alto Fire does not. So that's why I want some type of a definite plan here. Lives are at stake, and I think we need to hit this head on and try to find out who in fact is in charge. And, you know, we have Task Force 3, we have a competent staff, we have a competent fire chief and senior staff where they can effectuate those rescues. And I think they need that responsibility.
well, let me, not to cut you off, but to cut you off.
Why not, Javier?
For me, there are some valid points clarification that it really needed. When the data that you had presented in terms of who does what and boats and stuff like that. And I want to really turn to the chief and ask, within what Rob is saying, does any of this seems like you feel like as a department that there's a responsibility that the fire district have in this?
Sure, and I can share what we're doing now.
Just keep in mind as you're sharing this,
Yeah.
that this
This
is
is
not
not-
the
This is-
discussion,
right,
this is
that's
to see
why I
whether we
wanna
wanna
put-
have the discussion.
That's why I want to put it on the agenda so we can have it informed.
You need to be prepared.
And
for
that's-
this.
Yeah.
Right, that's why I want to put it on the
All you
agenda.
need to do is vote, all the board needs to do is,
Vote-
if there is the will of the board, to vote to put this on the agenda for next week, next month. That is the issue.
Not next month, at the chief and the president's
I stand
determination of
I
time.
stand corrected, but yeah, that is the issue before the board, is whether to have the discussion that you are now already beginning to have.
While recognizing staff time consumption, board time consumption, other things.
Assuming it makes it onto the agenda, I will need some kind of guidance as to what the target is. You know, what are we trying to achieve and accomplish so that we can spend staff time appropriately and try and give the board information so they can make a decision.
Okay, well, thank you, chief, for that. Good thing. message. So let's vote, I guess, we just move either vote on it or move it off out the bill. So can I get a,
You don't need a motion, you just vote on. I believe.
No, I believe you need a motion,
That's
if not even the will to move the item.
right? So is there a motion on the table to, move this item onto the agenda?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to have a discussion about the jurisdiction authorities on the bay.
I'll second that one. So motion been made, the second,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who seconded.
I did.
Rob.
Oh,
And so, we'll call for the vote.
Director Bernstein,
All right,
Director Bloom,
Nay.
Director Crawley,
Nope.
Director Solano,
Yes,
Director Jones.
Yes. So motion carries, we'll add it to, we'll figure out when to put it on the agenda. Talk, and then we'll figure out also what information you need to, for the report. Next items, item number, any other items? So we got new proposal agenda ideas, items. Anybody got any
when's enough?
ones enough? Hearing none, and then we'll move on to reports and requests. Committee report, emergency preparedness. I don't have any, Rob, do you have anything?
I also attended the San Mateo County 100-year ceremony also.
Emergency preparedness.
Hmm?
Emergency preparedness. Committee,
I'm
committee
sorry.
report.
Oh, okay, community reports, okay, well, you're the chair, you can,
I don't have anything.
you don't have anything?
No,
Okay, all right,
still in progress.
right, still in progress.
Still in progress. Facilities,
The facilities committee did not meet. Nothing to report.
human resource.
We did not meet, but I was aware that the report on AB 256 or 2561, which was in our packet today, would be in our packet. And since it's a state law, we just thought it would be better just to go straight to the board for the presentation in the public hearing.
Finance,
Finance committee did meet, as it normally does, given the number of items. Most everything was covered during the course of the meeting today, with the exception of, we did hear from our finance managers, their kind of regular report and market update on the bond market. And the presentation, I believe, is in the full packet or was distributed as an attachment. The net summary of it is that, as you've seen probably in the press, is the interest rates have stayed up higher than expected. So as interest rates continue to stay up higher than expected, then our interest income is also staying up higher than was originally expected. I think the anticipation over the last several months is that there's going to be rate cuts and a decline in interest rates in the kinds of investments we can make, which is qualified by state law. As it turns out, those interest rates have actually been quite robust and held up. So we continue to generate probably more interest income than we had anticipated, and market conditions for our investment strategy be quite favorable.
yes, go ahead, Chuck.
I would recommend, let me say, I'm happy with the report, I'm happy with the results we're getting. But I was gonna recommend that we do the same thing we do with the bill of the agency, that we put it on the website or something and just have a link to it, so that, because about a third of the packet that we get here is the camp report, and it just seems like an awful lot of pages to be duplicating every single month.
That's an item
It's
that,
just 2 pages.
Pardon me?
Camp report is just 2 pages.
Oh,
In
I'm
the
talking about the
packet,
wrong
it's 2
thing.
pages.
No,
We put the summary pages of the camp report
In the
in the
packet,
packet, and the
Packet.
rest is on the web.
yeah, so that there wouldn't be that much paper, because the full camp report is huge. So the
The only
summary,
thing that's significant is the quarterly
the
report.
summary,
Yeah.
the executive summary of the entire
Yeah,
report.
but I think
is-
she has the quarterly report in this.
Yeah.
document,
Okay.
Which is the more detailed.
that's what I was talking about. Anyway, I just, it's an awful lot of paper to, it just seems like it's a little bit wasteful.
Any, benefits finance? Then we'll move
Nothing,
on.
nothing further. Everything else the finance committee discussed was moved, approved, and forward motion from the regular agenda.
Liaison reports, Town of Atherton.
Town of Atherton did not have a regular meeting this last month. They had some form of study session, I believe, with their finance committee to discuss budgeting. So there was no meeting. The only notable thing that I would point out happening in the town of Atherton is a tremendous amount of communication from the town, both the police department as well as now the town, city council regarding the bicycle accident, the fatal bicycle accident, and I believe it's Prior Lane. Down near Encinal, it's basically about a block away from Encinal and Middlefield, where the gentleman was essentially a fatal accident with a garbage truck and bicycle. And so they have been sending out a significant amount of information about bicycle safety and related guiding traffic enforcement, other things relative to bicycles. But that was the only thing I have to report.
City of East Palo Alto. All I can, want to report is that they're still going through their strategic planning, work schedule for upcoming year, and they are concluding that process fairly soon. City of Menlo Park.
Yeah, so it was quite a busy month, starting off with the egg hunt, so, which was I think the Saturday before Easter, and it was successful. And I just want to thank Mike Seaton and the firefighters for putting that on. They were great as usual, and Old Tom was popular, and you know, everyone had a wonderful time, and it was a beautiful morning, so that was great. Let's see, should I just give my report to, I might as well at this point.
Go for it.
I attended the Menlo Park City Council meeting on May 13th. So the big issue has been the 80 Willow Road project, which, as the chief mentioned, went before the state. Actually, there was a petition that got the project or the site in front of the California State Historical Resources Commission, and they unanimously voted to make the Sunset Building or campus eligible for nomination to the Registrar of Historic Places. So that decision by the National Registry should be happening within the next 45 days, well, probably next 40 days or so right now. So everyone's waiting to hear how that turns out. Also, so that was a big thing. And also on the Oak Grove parking lot situation. Right now, there's, as you probably have read, there is an initiative that's been filed by a group of residents, and I just attended that event just to, you know, be an observer, really. There were probably about 40 to 50 people who were at the press conference when they filed the initiative, which essentially would force a vote of the people before the Oak Grove parking lots are turned into housing. So I don't know, now I think where they are is they have to get signatures at this point. So there's been a filing, and that just happened about a week or so ago, about actually a little less than a week ago. So Senator Josh Becker asked me as the Menlo Park liaison to the fire district to kind of support his SB 457 builder's remedy reform bill. And I guess the city of Palo Alto and he were working together to put a bill to be presented to the Senate hearing, the Senate Committee on Housing. And so he asked me to go and support that. So I was basically a Me Too supporter. He did mention in his remarks that the concern for gridlock, as we've talked about before, is a real concern for that project, and actually thanked the fire district for, you know, kind of keeping an eye out on the issue. So, I mean, it's not the right time, and I've told people that, you know, we're watching, and it's not the right time yet for us to do anything, but that's just on the horizon. But it's not just a concern for Menlo Park, but for pretty much Josh's entire, Senator Becker's entire Senate district, so we're kind of watching this, as I mentioned. I went to Dylan Taylor's celebration of life, as we know that his father, Michael Taylor, is the CERT trainer and part-time employee at the fire district. And I think there were probably 400 residents there. I mean, it was standing room only. And I didn't even get to say hi to Michael because everyone was there, so I just signed the book and listened. But there were a lot of people, and he apparently, you know, obviously he was a very special person and was actually a paraeducator in the Los Lomitas Elementary School District as well. So, you know, his presence, not just in our school district, but in the Menlo Park City School District, and being a football coach for the Menlo Atherton football team, you know, just there's this tremendous outpouring of grief and also love and, you know, celebration of his life. So I wanted to let you know that I attended that. I think Elizabeth Lewis and Mayor of Atherton was there
Yeah,
too.
sure.
Yeah, so it was very well attended. Let's see, I think that is, you know, I attended the 169th anniversary celebration of the San Mateo County, and so that was fun, and there was a good showing, so I'm glad that we were able to go. That's it.
Okay, County, San Mateo, District 3,
Nothing to report.
in District 4, I don't have any report either. Emergency, San Mateo.
We meet tomorrow. Our first meeting is at 5 o'clock with David Kennebec, President of the Board of Supervisors, to discuss the communication agreement that we have. And then at 6:30, we have the general meeting. So stand by relative to what's gonna happen there. And
Do you think
that's all
that,
I have to say about that.
do you think, Mark, they're gonna ask for filling the gap, the financial gap? Is that what David Caniff is gonna be doing?
I don't think so. My gut feeling is they are trying to elevate it to the electeds on both our sides and their side to kind of like stick with the status quo until we can renegotiate a contract when the AMR contract comes up in 5
Right.
years.
Yeah,
That's the hope.
okay,
That we can, you know, figure out a win-win situation for both us as the JPA and the county with Mike too. And maybe some kind of cost of living adjustment or CPI inflator. We'll see.
thank you.
Reports, requests of directors.
The San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't have anything to report, but I'm still working with the mayor of Menlo Park, who chairs the JPA, to set up that meeting with the CEO or of the JPA, the chief, him and me.
Okay, reports and requests from directors. If not a no, then we'll move on to president report. No, make it for easy for everyone, yeah, we're gonna get out of here now. but I don't really have any major reports to at this point in time, other than the fact that we're still working on our board retreat. And so we'll stay tuned. So if there's no other comments, questions, or songs to be sang, then we'll call it a day, call it a wrap.
Did you have a date on the board retreat yet, or is that still pending?
Do we have a date, Michelle?
I was waiting to hear back from one director.
Not from me. You're waiting to hear from me? You're looking at me like,
Yeah, she's waiting on you, Chuck.
oh, I told you already I wasn't gonna go.
Okay, so I think Chief Lorenzen and Director Jones will have some discussion.
Okay.
So stay tuned for a date.
Stay tuned. please. All right. So hearing nothing else, and I will call ourselves adjourned.
We did.
Yeah, right, we did. Yeah, survive one more night.